I was about to turn in for the night when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was nearly midnight. Calls at this hour were never good news. I grabbed the phone, my heart already beating faster. "Hey Mike, it's your wife's mistress." I blinked, my mind struggling to keep up. "My wife's what?" "She cheated on me," the voice on the other end continued, bitterness laced in his words. "With another guy." I sat up straight. What kind of twisted joke was this? "She's in Motel 506 right now," the man said. "Let's go get her." Motel 506. The rundown place just off the highway, the kind of place you'd never want to find your wife in, unless, of course, she was exactly where she shouldn't be. I ran a hand down my face. "You're telling me my wife cheated on you, and now you want my help to catch her cheating on you too?" "That's exactly what I'm saying." His voice was sharp, his breathing heavy. A moment of silence stretched between us. It wasn't just the absurdity of the situation, it was the terrifying realization that I actually believed him. I exhaled slowly. "Okay. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I swung my legs out of bed, my body moving on autopilot. My mind, though, was spinning. Claire. My wife of 10 years. The woman I trusted more than anyone. If this was true, if she was really at that motel, then everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. I opened the safe in my closet and pulled out my Magnum. If she was betraying me, she had no idea what kind of night she was about to have. As I slid the gun into the waistband of my jeans, I thought about the man on the other end of the call. He thought we were in this together. But little did he know, after I got my revenge on my cheating wife, he'd be the one on his knees, begging me not to shoot his Johnson off. I pulled into the parking lot of Motel 506, the neon sign flickering like a bad omen. The place smelled of cheap liquor and regret, the kind of place people came to do things they weren't proud of. The man from the phone call was already waiting for me, leaning against a beat-up Ford. He was younger than I expected, mid-30s, sharp features, and an expression twisted with anger. He pushed off the car when he saw me, his hands clenched into fists. "You Mike?" he asked. I nodded, my jaw tight. "Name's Daniel," he said. "We don't have much time." Room 214. I glanced up at the motel's second floor, my stomach churning. Claire was in there. With another man. Daniel started towards the stairs, but I grabbed his arm. "Tell me how you know," I demanded. His eyes darkened. "I was seeing Claire for months. Thought we had something real." He let out a bitter laugh. "Then I noticed she started pulling away. Making excuses. Thought maybe she was just feeling guilty. But then I caught her texting some guy late at night. When she left for work today, I followed her here." His jaw clenched. "And guess what? She wasn't alone." A slow, burning rage ignited in my chest. So this wasn't just a one-time thing. Claire was a serial liar. "Who's the guy?" I asked. "No clue," Daniel admitted. "Didn't get a good look. But I know he's in there right now." I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my hands from shaking. I had to see it with my own eyes. Daniel pulled something out of his jacket, a small pistol. "I want a piece of him," he said. I stared at him, then at his gun. "Put that away. I'm handling this." For a second, I thought he'd argue. Then, with a sharp nod, he tucked the gun back into his waistband. "Fine. But I want to see the look on her face when she realizes she got caught." We moved towards the stairs. My steps were heavy, my heart pounding harder with every step. I reached for the doorknob. And then, from inside, I heard Claire's voice, soft, breathy, betraying me in real time. I tightened my grip on my Magnum. Showtime. I stood outside room 214, my pulse a war drum in my ears. The cheap wooden door separated me from the woman I had trusted for a decade, the woman who, at this very moment, was wrapped around another man. Daniel shifted beside me, his breath uneven. "You ready for this?" he whispered. I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. I tested the doorknob. Unlocked. Typical. People who think they're untouchable get sloppy. With one deep breath, I pushed the door open. The room was dim, the sickly glow of a bedside lamp casting shadows against the peeling wallpaper. The scent of cheap perfume and sweat clung to the air. And there, tangled in white motel sheets, was Claire. Her back was to us, her bare shoulders exposed as she straddled a man beneath her. Dark hair. Athletic build. Not Daniel. Her moans froze mid-breath when she caught sight of us. She gasped, scrambling off the guy, grabbing at the sheets to cover herself. "Mike?" Her voice cracked, thick with shock. I didn't move. Didn't blink. I just let the silence hang. Let her feel the weight of what she had done. The guy in the bed bolted upright, eyes wide. What the hell? I raised my magnum and aimed it straight at his chest. He shut up real quick. Claire's breath hitched. "Mike, please." I turned to Daniel, my voice cold. "You recognize this guy?" Daniel took a slow step forward. The moment he saw the man's face, something inside him snapped. "You son of a..." Daniel lunged. Claire screamed as he tackled the guy off the bed, landing a solid punch to his jaw. The other man grunted, struggling to push him off, but Daniel was fueled by pure rage. He grabbed the guy's throat, his knuckles white. I let them go at it for a second. Then I cocked my gun. The sound silenced the room. Daniel froze, his fist mid-air. I gestured toward the other man. "I'm only gonna ask once. Who the hell are you?" The man coughed, his face red from Daniel's grip. He gulped. "I'm Ryan." That name hit me like a freight train. Ryan. Claire's boss. The guy she always talked about like he was some kind of business genius. The one she swore was just a friend. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "Of course." Claire started sobbing. "Mike, I can explain." "Can you?" I snapped, finally turning to face her. "Go ahead. I'd love to hear how you accidentally ended up screwing your side piece's replacement." Her face twisted with guilt. With panic. "I didn't mean for this to happen." I shook my head, lowering my gun slightly. "That's the thing, Claire. I think you did." Her lips parted, but no words came out. Ryan groaned from the floor, rubbing his jaw. "Look, man, I didn't know she was married." Daniel let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, shut the hell up." He turned to me, his eyes burning. "What now?" I stared at my wife. This stranger in my house. The mother of my children. My finger brushed the trigger. And then, slowly, I smiled. Now we have some fun." The air in that motel room was thick, fear, sweat, and the stench of betrayal. Claire sat frozen on the bed, clutching the sheets to her chest like they could protect her from the weight of her sins. Ryan was still on the floor, rubbing his bruised jaw, avoiding eye contact. Pathetic. And then there was Daniel. Her first affair. Now watching, fists clenched, just as betrayed as I was. I kept my magnum leveled, not at anyone in particular, just enough to keep them sweating. "Let's play a game," I said, voice even. Claire swallowed hard. "Mike." I held up a finger. "Shoo." Her lips clamped shut. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "Look, man, we can talk this out." I tilted my head, studying him. "You know what's funny, Ryan?" I mused. "You're laying there, half naked, after sleeping with another man's wife, and you still think you're in a position to negotiate? He paled. Claire sniffled, eyes pleading. Mike, please. You don't have to do this. I chuckled, shaking my head. Oh, Claire. I really do. I turned to Daniel. Tell me, buddy. What should we do with them? His lips curled. I have a few ideas. Claire flinched. Ryan cleared his throat, lifting his hands. Look, I didn't know she was married. Daniel's laugh was sharp, venomous. Oh, please. You knew. He leaned closer. I bet you liked it. Thought it was exciting, right? Stealing another man's wife. Ryan looked away. I stepped forward, crouching next to him. Tell me something, Ryan. I tapped the barrel of the gun against his temple, light enough to tease, heavy enough to remind him who was in control. Was she worth it? His throat bobbed. Claire gasped, Mike, stop. I turned to her. Why? My voice was calm. Dangerously calm. Her face crumpled. Because this isn't you. I let the words hang in the air for a beat. Then I laughed. A deep, hollow sound. Funny, I said, standing up. I don't think you know me at all. Daniel crossed his arms, watching Claire squirm. So, what now? I took my time, savoring the moment. Then, finally, I smiled. Now, we make them regret it. Claire's breathing was shallow, her eyes darting between me and the gun. Ryan, on the other hand, was sweating bullets, literally shaking in his boxer briefs. Daniel stood to the side, arms crossed, the same rage burning in his eyes. He wanted blood just as much as I did. I stepped closer to Ryan, letting the weight of my silence suffocate him. The guy was pathetic, some big-shot boss in the office, but now, on the floor of a cheap motel, he looked like a scared little boy. I squatted down, letting the magnum dangle loosely in my hand. You ever been with a married woman before, Ryan? I asked, tilting my head. He hesitated. And no. I chuckled. Bad liar. That's how I know you deserve what's coming. Claire sat up straighter. Mike, please, don't. I turned to her, my voice cutting through the air like a blade. You don't get to say my name. She flinched. Good. Ryan tried inching backward, but Daniel's boot planted itself firmly against his chest. Nah, Daniel taunted. You're not going anywhere, big guy. Ryan whimpered. Actually whimpered. I clicked my tongue. Man, Claire. This is the guy. The one you threw away everything for. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I never meant. Shut up. My voice was cold, final. She had no right to explain. Daniel leaned forward, sneering. I say we make them beg, he said, his tone practically dripping with amusement. See how much pride they've got left. I smirked. I like the way you think. Ryan shook his head furiously. Please, man, I'll do anything. Just don't. I pressed the barrel of my magnum against his belt line. Start with this, I murmured. Beg me not to blow your Johnson off. Ryan's face drained of color. Claire let out a choked sob. Mike, no. I ignored her. I wanted to hear him. Ryan swallowed hard, his body trembling. Please, man, he stuttered, voice cracking. Don't do this. I tilted my head, tapping the gun against him. You can do better than that. He sobbed. Please. I swear, I didn't mean. Click. The safety came off. Ryan nearly fainted. I can't lose it, man. Please, he wailed. I grinned. There it is. Daniel whistled. Damn. He folded quicker than I thought. Claire was sobbing now, hands covering her face. "Please, Mike," she whispered. "Just let him go. I made a mistake." "A mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is running a red light. This was planned. Deliberate." And she thought she could cry her way out of it. I pressed the barrel harder against Ryan's trembling body. Then, slowly, I smiled. "I'll think about it." Ryan was a mess. His whole body shook, his face a mask of terror. He wasn't some big-shot executive anymore, he was just another man who thought he could take what wasn't his and walk away unscathed. But not tonight. Claire sobbed into her hands. "Mike, please," she whimpered. "Just let him go." I let her words sit between us for a moment. Then, slowly, I lifted the gun from Ryan's belt line. For a second, his face flooded with relief, until I smirked and aimed it directly at his knee. Ryan lost it. "No. Please, man, please. I'll do anything. Don't shoot." Daniel laughed beside me. "Wow. Never seen a grown man beg like that before." Ryan's entire body collapsed into the floor. He was crying now, snot mixing with his sweat, his hands clasped together in a pathetic attempt at prayer. I stared down at him, my grip tightening around the gun. He deserved this. But the truth was, I wasn't going to pull the trigger. Because what came next? That was going to hurt a whole lot more. I exhaled, then flicked the safety back on. Ryan blinked up at me in confusion, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Get up," I ordered. He hesitated. I grabbed him by the collar and yanked him onto his feet. I said, "Get up." Claire was still sobbing. "Mike, please, just stop." I ignored her and turned to Ryan. "You're gonna walk out of this room," I said evenly. "You're gonna get in your car, and you're never gonna speak to my wife again. If you so much as breathe in her direction, I'll make sure you never breathe again. Got it?" Ryan nodded frantically. "Why yeah. Yeah, man. I swear." I stepped back, motioning toward the door. "Then go." He didn't hesitate. He grabbed his clothes off the floor and bolted, tripping over himself in his hurry to escape. The door slammed behind him, leaving just me, Claire, and Daniel. The room felt heavier without him in it. Claire sniffled. "Mike, Not a word." I turned to Daniel. "Your turn." He narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" I walked over to Claire and tilted my head. "You said you loved him, right?" She hesitated. I turned back to Daniel, my smirk widening. "She's all yours." Claire froze. Daniel let out a dark chuckle. "Now this is interesting." Claire's eyes darted between us. "Mike, what do you mean?" I leaned in, my voice dripping with venom. "You like betraying me? Fine. Let's see how much you like it when the tables turn." Her entire body shook. And for the first time tonight, she was the one begging. Claire's breathing was rapid, her tear-streaked face frozen in horror as my words settled. She understood exactly what I meant. Daniel let out a low whistle, crossing his arms. Well, he mused, eyes flicking to Claire. "Looks like the cheater doesn't like the idea of playing her own game." Claire shook her head furiously, clutching the sheets to her chest like they could shield her from reality. "Mike, please." I tilted my head. "Please what?" Her lips trembled. Don't do this. You're not like this." I let out a slow chuckle. "Not like this? Claire, do you even hear yourself? I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine." She squeezed her eyes shut. "I made a mistake." I scoffed. "A mistake? I leaned in close, my voice razor sharp. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. What you did? That was a series of choices. She let out a choked sob. I never wanted to hurt you. I exhaled slowly, running a hand through my hair. Yeah. Then why did you? She didn't have an answer. I straightened and turned to Daniel. So. You interested? Claire visibly recoiled. Daniel smirked, stepping toward the bed. Oh, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't thought about it. Claire whimpered. Please, Mike. I just stared at her. Let her squirm. Let her feel the helplessness I felt. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, fingers tracing the sheets. What do you think, Claire? His voice was mocking, taunting. You were all over me before. I mean, you seemed to like screwing around with one guy while your husband was clueless. She was shaking. Come on, he pressed, grinning. Let's make it even. You like betraying Mike, right? Maybe I should return the favor. Claire let out a broken sob. I watched, arms crossed, as she crumpled. She finally understood. The shame. The humiliation. Daniel leaned in, his face inches from hers. How does it feel, Claire? He murmured. How does it feel knowing you have no control? Knowing you're just a pawn now? Her shoulders shook violently. Please, she whispered. I'll do anything. I let the silence stretch before I finally spoke. Good, I said, my voice cool. Then start by getting dressed. Claire hesitated, then scrambled for her clothes. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That's it? I turned to him, smirking. Oh, trust me. This isn't over. Because Claire thought the worst was behind her. She had no idea what was coming next. Claire's hands shook as she fumbled with her clothes, yanking on her blouse, struggling to zip up her skirt. The motel room's cheap yellow light made her look even smaller, even more pathetic. Daniel sat back, arms crossed, watching her with a smirk. Damn, Claire. You were a lot more confident when you were riding other men. She winced. Good. I leaned against the wall, my magnum still in my hand, not aimed at anyone, just present. A reminder. Claire's lips trembled as she buttoned the last button, her eyes darting between us. Mike, what now? I tilted my head. What now? I repeated. Daniel chuckled. Oh, sweetheart. You don't get to ask that. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. I exhaled, standing upright. Here's what's gonna happen, I said, stepping toward her. She flinched. You're going to walk out of here. You're going to get into your car. And you're going to drive home. She hesitated. Alone? I grinned. Would you rather Daniel ride with you? Her face drained of color. No. Then you better start moving, I said. She hesitated, looking at me like she still had some hope. Like she thought this was the part where I'd break, where I'd tell her we could fix this. She was dead wrong. I gestured to the door. Go. She bit her lip, then grabbed her purse with shaky hands and hurried out. The second she was gone, Daniel let out a low whistle. Damn, man. That was brutal. I didn't answer. I was still staring at the door. My wife. The woman I spent 10 years of my life with. The woman I thought I knew. Daniel studied me. So, what's next? I turned to him, my grip tightening around the gun. Now. I said, my voice ice cold. Now, I finish this. The drive home was silent. No radio. No thoughts, really. Just the throbbing pulse of betrayal ringing in my ears. By the time I pulled into the driveway, Claire's car was already there. She was waiting. I stepped out, my grip still tight around the magnum, not because I planned to use it, but because the weight of it grounded me. Through the front window, I saw her pacing. Good. Let her panic. I pushed open the door. She turned instantly. Mike. I held up a hand. Sit. She obeyed immediately, perching on the edge of the couch like a prisoner awaiting sentencing. I shut the door behind me. Slow. Deliberate. Then, I took my time walking into the living room, making sure every footstep echoed. She sniffled. Mike, I know I can't fix this, but... I cut her off. Who else? Her breath hitched. What? I stared straight into her soul. How many? Tears welled in her eyes. Mike, please don't do this. I let out a low chuckle. There it is. The same selfish plea. The same desperate attempt to shift the blame. You don't want to do this? I repeated, voice mocking. Oh, Claire. You already did. She shook her head furiously. It wasn't like that. Then tell me, I snapped, stepping forward. Tell me exactly how it was. Tell me how you looked me in the eye every day, kissed me goodnight, acted like my wife while screwing other men in motels. Her face crumpled. I was lost. I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. Lost? Claire, you weren't lost. You were looking. Looking for the next thrill, the next escape, the next idiot stupid enough to believe your lies. She sobbed, hands gripping her knees. I love you. That did it. I slammed the gun onto the coffee table. Not in anger. In finality. Love? I whispered. You don't get to say that. Not to me. Not ever again. Her lips trembled, but she stayed silent. I straightened, my chest rising and falling in slow, controlled breaths. Then, I dropped the final blow. I filed for divorce this morning. She gasped. What? I pulled a folded document from my pocket and tossed it onto the table. Sign it. Now. She stared at it, hands shaking. Mike, please. I didn't blink. Didn't flinch. She hesitated, then slowly reached for the pen. As the ink dried, so did the last shred of mercy I had left for her. Claire was officially out of my life. But the game wasn't over just yet. Because there was still one last thing I had to do. Claire sat frozen, the divorce papers trembling in her grip. The finality of it all was sinking in, the reality that she had gambled everything, and lost. Good. She sniffled. Mike, what happens now? I leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, watching her like she was a stranger. Because that's exactly what she was. Now. I said, voice calm. Too calm. Now, you pack your things and get out. Her lip quivered. Tonight? I nodded. I don't care where you go. Motel 506 seems fitting. She flinched like I'd slapped her. For a moment, I thought she might argue. Might beg. But she didn't. Because she knew. She had no ground left to stand on. She pushed the papers toward me, her hands shaking. I glanced down. Her signature. Done. I exhaled slowly. Finally. Claire wiped her face, swallowing hard. Mike, will you ever forgive me? I stared at her for a long moment, then chuckled. Not out of amusement. Out of sheer, bitter disbelief. Forgive you? I repeated. Claire, I don't even know who you are. Her face crumpled. But I was done. I stood up, grabbed the divorce papers, and walked to the door. Be gone by morning. And just like that, I left. Left the house. Left the wreckage of our marriage. I got into my car and drove, nowhere in particular, just far, far away. And for the first time in years, I felt it. Freedom. Claire was nothing but a lesson now. And I was just getting started.